Hey there, everybody. Welcome once again to Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patti. I am your host, Patti Stuhlin. I am the Chief Pathfinder of Pathways with Patti. I am once again very excited and very happy to introduce to you today's guest, Gabrielson, who I affectionately refer to as Cecilia Marie. Cece and I met in the late 80s. She is the wife of my dear teaching buddy, Rick Gabrielson. And through Rick, I got to know Cece. Many years later, Cece and I taught together at Granite Hills High School, where Cece was one of my leadership advisors, and our friendship grew and blossomed from there. I consider Cece to be my sister. As you are learning from my previous podcast, my goal is to bring people to share their stories and how they have overcome difficulties to rediscover their passion and purpose. I am so happy that Cece is here today to share her incredible story with us. Cecilia Marie, it is terrific having you here today. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you, Patti Ann.
Excellent. Well, you know, over the past 30 years, you and we have experienced many of life's tragedies and triumphs together. I know you have a particular part of your life story that you would like to share with our audience today. So with that said, why don't you go ahead and take our audience on your journey?
Okay, sure. Thank you. Just a little bit of background. I've been in Southern California all my life. I was born and raised in Torrance. And then we went to Fontana, where my father moved there as an administrator. Went to Cal State Fullerton, earned degrees in kinesiology, as well as a master's in education, specifically counseling. From there, it brought me up to the high desert, which I thought I'll stay a couple of years in 1981. And within a couple of years, I met my late husband, Rick. And we started our family here, got married and started our family. And I wasn't leaving because Rick was raised here, and he has half siblings in different places in the world, but he has brothers and sisters right here in the high desert because said he was born and raised here. He made his friends family. So anyway, yes, we married in 85, have 3 darlings, a daughter and 2 sons. And when the baby was 5 months old, Rick was bit or stung by something in our backyard. We had just gotten home from a great vacation at the beach with friends, and he's working in the garden. He was only 40. And he said, I feel kind of lightheaded. And I said, you're an old man. You've been working in the backyard. And he said, no, something's wrong. Call my dad, which his father's Dr. Gabrielson. It's only a mile away. So I'm explaining it to Ron on the big phone,
Oh, yes.
It was
Yes.
94, holding the phone.
Yes.
Rick isn't feeling quite right. And he said, yeah, he's probably dehydrated. Right then, Rick said, call 911. And we're on the grass in the backyard. We're on an acre here. But he was setting up the garden for summer. And I called 911 because his breathing was strained.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, they were here within 5 minutes. They ended up intubating him. We went over to St. Mary's, the local hospital, spent one night where they called all these different poison centers. They had no idea what he was stung by. He was very fair skinned like me. So he had garden marks like this, but didn't see any bite. Oh, after the night, they sent him down to Loma Linda, where this was Holy Thursday, by the way.
Oh.
This was Holy Thursday when it happened. And he opened his eyes a couple times, but we spent the week down there. And then after Easter Sunday, Monday, each system started failing. And we lost Rick, died on that following Thursday. So walked out of Loma Linda after spending a little time there after he died with my 3 babies. Joe was 5 months, Ricky was 5, and Katie's 7 years old.
And once again, they still did not know what he was bit or stung by, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. They don't know. He didn't know he was bit. Anyway, before we left Loma Linda, they asked, and he was a donor, organ donor, so signed all those papers. And I was with a friend, Carol. And as I'm signing the papers, the woman with the clipboard says, I need to tell you something. You're going to be okay. As I have the stroller and the two kids, and thinking my world literally just turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you're going to be okay. And I can hardly breathe, say, okay. And she said, let me tell you a story. Well, real quickly, she had a 2-year-old, was married to a cop. They're in bed. They think they hear a prowler. He backhands the baby into the 2-year-old into the closet, kills his daughter.
Oh my
And
gosh.
within the week, he shot and killed himself. So this woman lost her entire family within a week. So I
Oh,
remember walking out of Loma Linda. I know. I think
oh,
she was like a little angel sent to me to say, you really are going to be okay. But I'm
mm-hmm.
walking out in the stroller thinking, I'm the luckiest woman. I have 3 babies here. I have 3 children. They're going to keep
Mm-hmm.
moving. Um, but yeah, that was a huge change in my life. I had a very easy upbringing, loving Irish, Italian, Catholic family. There were 8 of us, and my life was easy. We were middle class folks, and uh, became difficult overnight to move forward without my love.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you get to that point, because of course that is not part of what your game plan or vision for your life
Mhm,
is.
mhm.
I mean, that's a major roadblock
Yeah.
that would stop many people in their tracks and decide. I mean, unfortunately, like this police officer decided that was a big enough roadblock. He was ending his life.
Mhm,
And that is a big mission of this podcast, is to let people know that there are going to be bad things or tragic things happen in our lives, but learning from people like you on how do we take that roadblock and then we move on beyond that to continue to live a life full of passion and purpose. So what were the steps that you took after that, knowing that you have 3 children? Where do you go from that point?
mhm. Well, I wanted to make sure we stayed in this home because I, read plenty about losing a parent, and for my kids to have that constant, and the constant was school. But even more than that, the connections Rick had made, the connection that I had made, because by that time, see, I moved up here in 81, and then he died in 94. So I didn't have family up here. And what I ended up doing is just the same thing. My friends were my family, and having one-on-one connections, having groups to connect with, small, really little small community at that time, um, I think saved me,
Mhm.
because that was the first time I understood that AA term, one day at a time, because it really was, okay, how do we do today without Rick? How do
Right.
how do we move forward? How do I make sure these 3 little people are going to be okay? And I felt that, I was going to say a huge responsibility, but it wasn't a heavy burden. It was more, I always wanted to be a mother. I asked for them. So it was more of, this is fulfilling a calling of mine, uh, is continuing to be their mother. Can't be a father. I don't think like a man. I don't act like a man. So I wanted to continue to be their mother, and surrounded them by wonderful people. The school they were in, like I said, just small communities of people. Me learning how to ask for help, because I was that person that had the calendar. This is olden days, calendar on the refrigerator, and I had it color coded because I had to know who was going where and what time I was
Mhm.
picking kids up. so I didn't lose a child or be
Yes.
that irresponsible mama.
Yes.
So I had to ask people for help, which I wasn't used to doing. I was very independent. I bought my first home alone before Rick came along, and you know, I learned really quickly can't do it all alone. Not
No.
successfully, not so everyone's moving forward. Found I needed people in my life, and I chose well, um, and I chose Christian loving people. Not
Hmm.
necessarily a person that went to a church or a member of a church, but Christian people to be around.
Hmm. Now, if I remember correctly, you created a little journal type thing for your children to help them through this process. Could you please tell everybody about what it was that you created?
Yeah, I was just journaling as part of actually my counseling. When I was at St. Mary's, they assigned Giovanna Piazza, and she was my counselor. And then I stayed with her for a while to learn how to navigate moving forward with three little people. And anyway, she suggested journals. So I did. I kept notes on all the really words of wisdom from the babies, from my kids that would say different things, watching Daddy in the Clouds and how they were dealing with it on their own. So I wrote those things down, and I put it in a booklet form called My Daddy Died Too, because my oldest was at Rio Vista, and the principal called me and said, I have a new student. So this is only one other student in Katie's class that was going to be from a single parent. Her parent, this little girl's parents, were killed in a car accident.
Mm.
So the principal asked, can I have Katie talk to her and welcome her to our school? Of course. And so Katie sent her a note and said, my daddy died too. And they've been friends. But this tells you the difference in our community and the changes since 1994, that everyone in her class, it was mom, dad, sister, brother,
Mhm.
the family unit. And I was the oddball widow out here,
Mhm.
widower. Um, and I felt that oddball sometimes. And I have my faith. I've always trusted, and God has shown me He takes care of me.
Mhm.
He is taking care of each one of us.
And did you find that your children responded well to that particular journal that you created for them?
They did. They did. They actually, when they got older, I showed them what I did, and they were the ones that said, put it in a workbook form, and maybe we can share it with. There's the Sunset Hills, the big grief group for children that's available now, because there wasn't any group up here then. I did have them go to counseling with me,
Mhm.
appropriate for children. And again, that was a Christian counselor. Make sure we were all on the same page.
Mhm. So what advice or what words of wisdom would you give to our listeners that may be out there right now who may be in a situation where their loved one, their significant other, may be going through a dying process or they have lost their loved one, whether that be male or female? What would be some words of wisdom that you could share with those people?
Words of wisdom would be seek a counselor, a therapist. They're trained, um, they're there to support you. And besides that person, seek a group of something you're interested in. So you're with a community of people that think like you, whether it's a church group or a gardening group, or if you're into photography, hiking, find something where you belong in your community, so you have a purpose, and develop relationships. If you haven't already, you might have those connections, but call on them. And I have a friend that her husband died about 18 months before mine, and she'd say, Cease, I don't care if you call me at 2 a.m. I will wake up for you. And Joanne meant that. And I don't forget it, because I've shared that with others. So I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes that happens anyway. And
Mhm.
and it's not it's a positive. to ask for help. First of all, you're saying, I'm worth it. I need help. Second, you're giving that other person on the other end an opportunity to love you.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
exactly what it is. Give them the opportunity to love you and let yourself be loved.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You know,
Mhm.
going along with that, I had from personal experience, I had loved ones that had passed away in my family, but it wasn't until my dad's death that I really took that, as you know, because you were there
Yes.
with me on that
Yes.
journey, took it very hard. And I know that with the hospice group that he was with, they offered free grief counseling. And it was interesting because I know I shared this with you. I thought, oh, I'm gonna do this because I wanted my mom to do it because I wanted to make sure that she was good. I'm not thinking I need it. Oh no, not me. But I knew that she wouldn't go unless I went with her and I took her. So it's like, I'm gonna do this for mom. And I will have to say, the first couple times I'm thinking, I don't really know if this is my thing because everybody is sharing their stories, and it's like,
Mhm.
This is supposed to help me hearing their stories." And my mom and I ended up being in that grief group for 2 years following my dad's death, and I can honestly say that in some respects, it saved me mentally, spiritually, and physically because it let me deal with all of those grief storms especially. And I know one of the areas that you played a very big part in our school district was the crisis team. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing what that was, how that got started, and what you were able to do through the school district with your crisis team.
Sure. I was with Apple Valley, and when Rick died, there wasn't any system in place. He also worked at Apple Valley High School, and so that's how you two were friends before I came along. And
Mhm.
it's really nice that you have that foundation with him. Um, but the superintendent, principal, and then superintendent, Dr. Barnes, realized we don't have anything in place. These teachers were aching. Uh, how do we cover their classes when they're physically breaking down? His students, it was heavy. So anyway, he called together a group of us. Uh, there were five of us, a counselor, and then just teachers from different walks that may have had their masters in counseling or did not, just had an interest and really passionate about um, helping people heal. So
Mhm.
we created a manual back then that we end up updating every single year. And the manual dealt with crisis, whether it was a student, staff member, uh, somebody in our community, or within our district. The crisis team would go into that site, go in and work with those teachers, go in and work with those students to start the healing process. It is just managing the crisis at that moment. And yeah, we did that for, oh gosh, over 20 years. Uh, the team changed a little bit over the years, um, but it's powerful to be prepared. It's like insurance. Don't want to have to use it. I don't want to be in a car accident, but I have to have
Mhm.
insurance.
Mhm.
And we never wanted to pull that manual. But in time of crisis, you're not thinking straight. Sometimes your heart is just aching, your brain is foggy. So this gave us a list, check by check, of exactly what we needed to do to make sure our students and then our staff members were going to be okay.
I think there's quite a few people that seem to think that in order to get some kind of counseling, that it's going to cost money. But I know that that there are resources that are out there that will not cost a person hardly for free or hardly anything. Isn't that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, even, yeah, for free or on a sliding scale. And that's one of the pluses with our high desert growing. Even here, there are different groups for different age groups at different times in your life. I was 35 years old, and the grief group I went to, there were all these grandma and grandpas where I am now. But it didn't pertain to my life at that time. Now there's groups, and there's groups through churches, through the community center that are free, and they're valuable.
And with technology the way that it is, because you didn't have all this technology when Rick passed away that we have now. I mean, it's much more simple to Google either grief counseling or and it doesn't even have to be related to grief. It could just be you yourself or having a bad stretch of a time, correct? Because
Yes,
I mean
exactly.
that one of the other parts of your story I'd like you to share is how you went from being a physical education teacher to a counselor.
Yes. Yes. So when I first started here, I was at Victor Valley High School. It was a wonderful counselor, Philomena Shea, and I loved the way she worked with kids. She was a mom of many. I think they had 7 or 8. But anyway, I went and got my master's then in 81. Didn't, I was going to say didn't use it, but I guess all teachers use counseling skills. But I did not become a counselor until 2004 at Granite Hills. And it's there's different aspects in counseling, of course, at a high school with educational, their future counseling, the emotional counseling. And now, since I've retired, they've added so many more branches because of COVID, which is nice that there's funding there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I worked through counseling and with kids, which deals with parents, their families, and often there were staff members in my office, which I welcomed. There needs to be a place for staff. There's a lot going on in schools,
Mm-hmm.
and your staff needs to be taken care of.
Oh yeah,
Oh
most
yeah,
definitely.
I,
So for
I
those, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say I did that. Yeah, 2004 until I retired in 2019. Which again, I know this is your pathways that you talked about and repurposing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to flip it off of grief, but that was a huge change too for me.
Sure. Yes.
The retiring after really 40 years in education. Um, had a great words of wisdom from lots of people. I watched my friends that retired a little bit earlier and thought, oh, how they're doing it successfully or not so much. And I measured that success on happiness and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I listened to the words of wisdom and it was just enjoy that first year, sit back, somebody invites you somewhere, go do it. You're not on a schedule. And that's huge for people in education because we're used to
Oh
bells ringing
yes.
and moving.
We were dictated by a schedule.
Yes, yes. So yeah, that first year I did, and I love to travel. So I got to go to Spain the month of September, came home, had all the wonderful holidays, and then in spring, everybody came home with me because COVID hit. So there
Mm-hmm.
was that lockdown. Um, and again, yeah, I found myself looking to where's my purpose now? Nobody needs me at work. All my children are adults. I'm enjoying grandchildren now. And like I said, I'm enjoying loving them and visiting with them. I don't want to be their daycare 5 days a week. So where's my life now?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes cursing Rick because he was here. We've been doing lots of stuff.
Yes.
um, but yeah, that whole reinvention of, and I think with COVID, a lot of people were right there with me. There were tons of free workshops online, whether they're exercise classes or how to garden or uh, my Bible studies I really got involved in, and finding courses on quantum energy that fascinate me because we're made up of energy,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that has to do with healing body and soul. And that's
Sure.
something that I did. That was my line of work, with crisis counseling, with grief counseling. So, yeah, there's another pivotal point in my life. They kind of have to sit back and say, okay, I wish I could just travel all the time. But realistically, what do I need to do? What do I want to do?
Right.
Which is just fun to have that opportunity to, thank God.
Yes.
Not
For
all of
your
us get to
for your
retire.
many blessings.
Yes, yes.
So when you look over your life, when did you realize that you had a passion for helping others?
Hmm, that's a good question. I know it might sound funny, but I think when I was a little girl, I'm number 4 out of 6 children.
Hmm.
And my mom always told me she may have told all of us this, but I was just the easiest child. Um, but the middle child, I was the buffer. I felt that in my family. Um, I wanted things to be nice and smooth,
Hmm.
buffer between the 3 older kids and the 2 younger. And then as I find with my friends, as I was growing up, same thing. And I always wanted to be a teacher.
Did
I
you?
I always wanted to be a mother and a teacher, and those
Hmm.
are helping professions.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, I just thought it was such an honor to get to do both. And even as a little girl, I wanted to be a mom. I saw my mother. She was amazing. Patty, my mom had a high school education. That's it. And she's one of the wisest people I know.
Hmm.
There's so many things I know I've shared with you
Yep.
that she taught us, modeled for us. And I wanted to be like her.
Yep. Exactly. So it started for you at a very early age, and you continue to carry that on even through retirement.
Yes, I do. I do. I notice with my friends, that's who I am. You know, our siblings have changed a bit. We're in our from 62 to 72 now. Um, and there's different health issues that have come up. Now I still would like to be helpful there in smoothing over things that with health issues, everything changes,
Hmm.
especially when you're not given a date of death, but a terminal illness.
Yes.
Um, for anybody that's listening, anybody, make sure you have your life in order. Take care of your paperwork. Um, you want your wishes. You want your wishes to be yours. You get to make those choices until you can't. And we all have a date that we can't.
Yep.
So there's online again. There's wills, living trust. Whether you have things, a house or anything, just take care of your paperwork, take care of your life. To me, I think it's one of the selfless things a person could do. I kind of felt like I was forced to do it early on, Patty. When
Oh
Rick
yeah.
died, oh my gosh, I've got to find if something happened to me, I've got to see who's taken 1, 2, or 3 children. I had to
Hmm.
have that lined up and in place. And of course, as things as they got older, I've just updated all of that. Um, but it's peace of mind while we're still here on Earth that we got
Hmm.
to make these choices. We get to decide what we would like after we transition. And even with my Bible studies, I will tell you, I've changed that end of life to 3rd trimester because
Oh.
we transition, I believe, my beliefs, we transition somewhere else. You
Hmm.
know, our energy changes. We don't have this physical body.
Right.
So just like having a baby, that there's new life somewhere else. And I
Hmm.
want to say it's more than a belief. To me, it's just a known. It's just a known that this is how it's going to roll out.
Hmm. Well, I know when I over this past year when I have discovered my true passion and purpose really is about motivating people to
Mhm.
live their best dash, as you know. It kind of stems from a program that you were very involved with me on our campus called Every 15 Minutes. And for those of you out there that have never heard of this program before, it I believe they still have it, and it is sponsored by the California Highway Patrol. And at the time that Cease and I learned about this program, in the state of California, every 15 minutes, someone in the state died from a drunk or distracted driving related accident. And in this program, it's several days at your school, and your leadership students and whatever adults that you can get to help you out put it on. The day number one, excuse me, you're doing a simulated drunk driving car accident out in the front of your campus. And the kids have been, the beautician students from our local junior college came over to put makeup and stuff on our kids for the ones that died in the accident, the ones that survived but were injured. And through that, we bring all the juniors and seniors out, and it's right before all the year-end activities happen with prom and graduation and grad night and all that, because that's when the teenagers tend to do more drinking, more partying, celebration. Yes, Cisco, you got
And to
something you
add
want to
to
add there?
that, because it's a given for us, but parents have approved. Parents have been
Oh,
notified. They have to
yes.
sign everything. So these kids that are involved.
And these kids are all handpicked ahead of time that are involved in this program. So yes, they've signed all the documentation and all that good stuff. But through this process, these kids that are killed in the accident, and then we have a Grim Reaper, another one of our wonderful staff members, Josh Reese. He played the Grim Reaper, and designated students knew that they were going to be tapped on the shoulder by the Grim Reaper, because the rest of the day after the car accident, every 15 minutes, the bell tolled on our campus that let everyone on campus know that someone had just passed away. So Josh and his Grim Reaper outfit would show up, tap a student on the shoulder, let them know that they had passed away. These kids didn't know what period or what time it was going to happen to them, but those students were then brought back to my classroom, where they had a styrofoam a headstone that they had to decorate. And on the headstone, of course, they had to put their name, date of birth, the dash mark, and then the day, that day's death, because that's when they had passed away. So through that process, it created the lesson that I did for all of my students, that came to being living your best dash. And what Cease just mentioned before I said this about getting your affairs in order, because Cease, as you know, it was totally unexpected in your 30s that you would be a widow with 3 children. And it was so unexpected for you that I know myself, some people find it morbid, but I have already bought my plot. I own a little bit of land out there at Sunset Hills Mortuary. I have my plot. I have my casket. My niece has my funeral arrangement. She has my will, executor of the estate. And it's been that way for several years now. And there are several people that find that, really? But you know, when I became a life cycle celebrant and I started officiating funerals and weddings, but with the funerals, with some of the families I've worked with, there have been couples that they have been married for like 40 and 50 years, and the wife did not know. Did the husband want to be cremated? Did he want to be put in a casket? Because they found it very taboo to discuss this topic. And I think it's very important that we are honest and open with our loved ones. One, so everyone left behind knows what that person wanted, doesn't create any issues. And I'm sure as a counselor and in your own family and working with other people, you have probably seen that that is one of the things that tears people apart after the death of a loved one.
Yes. And, we put Rick up there at Sunset Hills also. And my 7-year-old at that time got to create our headstone. So, it has Rick's birth and death, and it has my birth, and I'm living my dash. But I remember Chet Hitt saying back then, if there isn't a plan, people spend so much more money because you're in an emotional place when somebody dies. Oh, maybe we should get this bench, maybe we should do the headstone, maybe we should. And if you have that discussion, to me, it's really healthy. And it doesn't make death taboo. Death doesn't have to be a horrible place.
No.
Like I said, if you have it, I don't know what beliefs are, but I know mine. I get to transition to a heavenly place. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a horrible activity of completing forms. A little bit of paperwork, a little bit of time, but they're your wishes. You've done everything you can, and then when I'm gone, world moves on.
Well, and the other thing too is, that by doing that, your children don't have to wonder what it was that you wanted, and they don't have to argue with one another, fighting over, well, she would have wanted this or she would have wanted that, because that tears apart so many families. I have seen that you don't, it's a bad enough experience as it is. You don't need any more aggravation added to it. And Cece and I are not bringing all of this up to be morbid or be depressing. This is part of life. This is all a part of living your best dash, because finding your passion and purpose should also be a part of creating your legacy. And your legacy, even though that dash on your headstone looks like a very small, insignificant line, it represents your life here, and it represents how long your legacy continues on based on the seeds you planted with people and places and things while you were here during your time. And one of my messages, as you know, Cease, is it's never too late to create a legacy that you can be proud of. So I
Right.
know that as a counselor, especially when you were counseling teenage students, many of them, when it comes to you asking them to set goals and intentions for their life, they can't even see past this next weekend,
I know.
let
I
alone
know.
think about, their future.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'd like to ask you is, what words did you have for those kids, and what words do you have for the people in our audience that, if they just they're at a roadblock and they just don't know where to go or what to do first, what are some suggestions that you have for helping them to move forward and not stay stuck where they're at?
Right. Well, I couldn't do this with students because I was in a public school, but with anyone else, I would, if you have any form of prayer, faith, start there. Uh, because I do believe we have to continue to evolve with our passions. Life changes. It was huge change when I was 35, and then moving through kids growing up, retirement, another huge change. It would have been really easy to get stuck there in COVID, but I made
Mhm.
some choices. One thing that Giovanna gave me, this is back at St. Mary's Hospital, 94, and I still have it on my refrigerator. Choose joy, and it's a poem about choosing joy. We get to choose. Do I want to just stay stuck in COVID and I'm going to stay home, or are we going to start paddleboarding on a lake where we could be safe, distance with social distance, and get the opportunity to move and socialize? Uh, so for anyone, I do think it's important to remember to evolve. Well, I don't want to be stuck where I was at 35 or even 55. Uh,
Mhm.
I want to move forward. And part of that for me is definitely having things written down. These are my wishes. Oh, and by the way, shared them with all five of the kids. Two of the kids are married. Shared it with all five of them. This is mom's book. This is the way it will roll out. Don't try to mess with me when I'm gone. Because even was back then with students and family deaths, or now, like you said, people are raw. It's heavy when we lose a person we love. Um, I will even say when we lose a pet that we love.
Mhm.
And it's hard to think straight. So that's when the arguments come in. But if everything's written down, like, oh, this is what mom and dad wanted. This was the plan. We want to respect that person. And so if it's written down, it's not morbid, it's loving to me. But
Mhm.
I think it's a kind, loving gesture. And yeah, for anyone, I really push putting things in writing. There's plenty of things online. I really push connecting with your community, whether it's a
Mhm.
paddleboard community,
Mhm.
because we have quite a few of us now,
Mhm.
um, or it's a church community, whatever works for you.
Right.
But finding that passion, something that you did that helped our group out, and I don't know if you realize in your schooling this last couple of years,
Mhm.
um, you you had us walk through those steps of setting short-term goals.
Oh, yes.
And like I said, sometimes kids in school are like, short-term goals, what? I'm going home and having a meeting when I get home. And our long-term goals. So Patty, I took those out this morning because I knew we were going to chat, and I thought, am I on target for what we discussed? And right on, I am. But
Mhm.
it just helps to refocus when we had a small group, and I know you do these small groups or you do one-on-one. It's very simple and it's nothing you push. It
No.
was my thoughts. what would I like? And I just wrote them down in kind of timelines. It was short and long term goals. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I took them out this morning. I went, I am right on track. I want to do more with spiritual healing, with Reiki. I wanted to learn more about, the energy in our body, more about gardening, I want to get deeper into my Bible study, which I have become
Mm-hmm.
more active member. So if you get an opportunity to do a one-on-one with Patty or do a small group, I think we had maybe a group of, there were less than 10 of us, right, Patty?
Yeah, I think there were six. I think there were six
Okay.
people. And with my groups, I like to try to keep them smaller than 10, because if you
Yeah.
get too many, but it is nice to be in a group because you can hear what other people are saying. And sometimes like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, that's a really,
Yep.
so yeah, it was really good. And I think each of you fed off of each other very, very well and helped supported each other.
Right. Right. And I don't throw those things away. I have gone through it a lot since I retired, a lot of paperwork and notebooks that I didn't need to save anymore. But now this is all about me. I mean,
Hmm.
really, it's not even, yes, of course, my children and grandchildren and my friends, but it's about me and what I want to do and how I want to do it. And so I have new notebooks, I have new files, and I'm not going to throw that away.
Hmm.
Something like a course like this, a group like this, just keeps you on track.
Yes.
It helps every single person. If you choose to give just a little bit of time and energy, it's gonna help you move forward, move, yeah, live in that dash, as you put it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I say evolve and continue to evolve till you transition.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, I know from experience, because one of the other things that I had you guys do was take those short and long-term goals and create a vision board, because sometimes having that vision board is just another way for you to reinforce with yourself are these my passions? Are these the purpose of what I want to go towards? And I know on my own personal vision board for this year, I put on there that I wanted to get a new puppy, because some of you that are listening out there know, but the majority of you don't. Within a 2-month time span, two of my dogs passed away, which was very, very tough because um, my fur babies, those are my children. So one of the things on my vision board for this year was to get a new puppy somewhere for the in 2023. And right now it does not look, because of the one dog that I still have left, because of issues that she's having with depression and grief. It does not look like the vet thinks that that's a very wise idea to get a new puppy. The reason I bring this up is just because you put something on your vision board or you created a goal does not mean that there will not be things that happen throughout the year that are going to need to change the things on the vision board. That doesn't mean you failed. It's just a little bit of a setback, maybe. You could change it. You just take it off, or maybe there's something else that comes along. So he's having, I mean, when you agree with that's okay.
Yes.
Not everything you write down is gonna come to fruition, and that's okay.
Right, right. And maybe not in his timeline. Sometimes, why didn't that happen? Why didn't it happen? It's not going to happen yet. So I'm glad you mentioned pets, because that's very real with grieving, and picking up a grief folder or something online could help people navigate the loss of our fur babies. And the other thing is, yeah, life is gonna, I'd say, it's like riding that wave. Uh,
Hmm.
there's times when, man, you are gonna crash, but if you have all these other things in place, it's a foundation. You're not going to stay with your nose in the sand very long once you crash in the wave. You have
Yeah.
the foundation of community around you, of your regular habits to move forward. Um, with our vision boards, I put mine up in my bedroom. And I learned years ago, set a morning intention, set a morning intention. And that does take me back to, you asked, so what about people that they don't even get the short and long-term goal? Start with a morning intention. When you
Mm.
wake up, and this is the beauty of retirement, you don't wake up with an alarm and go, 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 run, run, run.
Uh-huh.
wake up and you go, what's my intention today?
Yeah.
Oh, should I think about this over coffee or tea?
Mm-hmm.
um, but just having that habit, that's setting short-term goals.
Sure.
And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be a huge intention that, I'm going to get the garage cleared out. It could
Right.
be, I'm going to write thank you notes to people. That's my
Mm-hmm.
intention for the day. And starting there with something simple. So that's a short-term goal.
Yes, I mean, that's a really good point. I know our friend Krista, who is still teaching, she said that there was a day that she got up that morning and she set the intention that she was not going to let anyone steal her joy because that kept happening over and over. So that was her intention for the day. No matter what came her way, it was her intention that no one was going to steal her joy. And I thought, how simple of an intention, and yet so difficult at the same time, because we know how we can get very upset and allow someone to
Yes.
steal our joy.
Yep.
But doing that first thing in the morning, what a great intention to start for
Yep.
your day.
Yes, it is. And so if you have that habit, when the wave crashes or crap goes down, um, it might be a couple days that you stay down, but eventually you're going to turn and wake up. When you wake up and go, you're in that habit. What's my intention for today?
Yeah.
And some
That,
people like to write things down at, like I said, the vision board so you can see it. We're different types of people and learners.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
however you need to do it, talk about it, write it down, have it right there in front of you so you can see it.
And share it with people. And I should also verify, share it with people that you know are part of your tribe, that are going to support you in this, because we all have people in our life that are going to, as I famously say, are going to yuck your wow. Do not let them yuck your wow. And that means, you go to them, oh man, I've got this great idea. I'm going to start a podcast. And then that person would go, why in the world would you want to do that? That is a stupid idea. Well, they just yucked my wow. I'm going to go and share it with people in my tribe that I know they're going to be honest with me, but they're also going to be supportive. So I think that's another important thing, is when you create your intentions or you create your goals, share it with people, because that's another step in bringing them to reality.
Yes, yes, it is. And for me, I like to share it also because it helps keep me accountable. I like
Oh,
to be held
yes.
accountable.
Yes.
So I do
Yes.
have to tell you, when I shared with my youngest, who's now 29, what I was doing today, I said, Patty has a podcast. He gets online. I said, what are you doing? I'm letting Brittany know right now. So your students are going to be spreading the word. Patty has a
Woohoo!
podcast.
Yeah. Right on.
But it is share the joy. Why not? There's a lot of ugly out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ugly out there, and we need to share our joy. And I know that is what the universe wants. That is what our
Sure.
God wants. He wants us to have the joy in our heart. And,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to ask for it. The more we do that, the more we share with people, that just becomes a given. That this is our conversation. This is what we talk about.
Oh yeah. Well, and I just wrote my next week's newsletter that goes out. So those of you that are out there, if you've not been to my webpage, make sure you sign up for the newsletter, because I send out a weekly newsletter. But this one that I just wrote yesterday, the title of it is Your Tribe Determines Your Vibe. And I feel very blessed that you are part of several of my little tribes that we are in. But I mean, wouldn't you agree that the people that the 8 to 15 people, the oikos as our church calls it, the 8 to 15 people in the front row of your life, they are the ones that really can help you create a positive or negative vibe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. You get to choose. We get to choose who we spend time with. And that is something that I also find in this third trimester. I'm pickier. Time is
Mhm.
very limited, and choose who you want your tribe to be, your people, your chosen family. You were not born with my mother and father, but we're sisters.
Mhm.
And, I am honored, and I believe it's not coincidental. No,
No.
this is how we have listened to his plan and how it should all play out.
Hmm. So my next question for you is, what would you say has been the best thing to happen to you since you retired?
Mm. I will say having the freedom to see my three grands. I have three granddaughters that are two, 4, and 8. So they're all at different stages, and the joy. I know I heard it so many times before I became a grandma, but the joy I get from them, my heart fills up. It re-energizes me. Just spending time with them. It was limited when I worked. Run
Hmm.
down because they're an hour and a half away, maybe 2 hours, depending on traffic. Run down there, have a quick visit and zip home. And now it's spending the night. One of my grands, I think one of my granddaughters, each time wants me to sleep on her pillow because then she won't wash it for the week because it smells like grandma, like we're snuggling. I mean, how amazing is that? They want to FaceTime with me. Yeah, having those 3 little people, and again, I've listened to my friends that have been grandparents longer than me, soak this time up, soak it up, because they become teenagers and they get their own life.
Hmm.
So I am soaking that up. Um, and then the other thing that I'm passionate about is getting out there on the paddleboard.
Hmm.
It is like church sometimes. You and I talk about, we walk and talk,
Hmm.
paddle and talk, or sometimes we don't even talk. It's just a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And we've got all morning to do it. We're not waiting for that next bell to go off.
Yeah. Well, and taking the opportunities, because one of the things that I also mention is to create that passion and purpose in your life. Sometimes we have to overcome our own self-doubt, self-talk. And I know yesterday morning we had planned, you and I, to go out on the lake, and I just kept thinking, oh, but I probably shouldn't go because I got to take care of this and I got to get ready for that and I got to do this. And the list went on and on and on. And I thought, nope, you need to go do this. You need to go do it. And when the whole thing was over, it reminded me that if I would have talked myself out of that because of all these things that I thought needed to take care of, I would have, number one, missed out on spending some special time with you. Number two, would not have had the opportunity to see Marie, our other friend who was on the lake, which we did not know about. And number three, meet a new person that I think will become part of our rad little retirement group. And then the unbelievable thing of getting to see a bald eagle in a tree right there on the little beach shore area, that we had heard that there was a bald eagle here in the high desert, had never seen it before. And we just sat there on our paddle boards and canoes and just admired nature at its grandest. I would have missed that if I would have stayed with the negative thoughts that I woke up with because I had things I had to do.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that I took the opportunity that you offered by going out on the lake. And that's just one example of what I would encourage those of you that are out
Mhm.
there listening right now. Do not let that little negative talk be the loudest voice that you hear when you start your day. Look for those other things. And if it doesn't seem to be quieting down, reach out to someone in your tribe and just have a talk with them.
Mhm.
One of the other things that I happened to mention in one of my newsletters was during COVID, and you've brought up this several times about how it kind of changed things for us with
Mhm.
walks and talks. But we found out it was very, very important to make human connections with people. And we were able, luckily here in the high desert, to be able to do that, to go out on walks where we could still stay socially distanced. We could be out on the lake. We could, get our group together in a park someplace and sit socially distant. But there was a gentleman in a summit that I had seen that he was in a little tiny apartment in New York City. And, when they were locked down, they were locked down. They could not go anywhere. And what he started was with a group of his friends, the first 15 minutes of every morning, they would Zoom and they would talk for the first 15, they would talk for 15 minutes about the things they were grateful for. Each one of them would share what they were grateful for. And so that set their intention for the day. Because yes, doom and gloom, because it's COVID, they can't leave their apartments, they can't get out and do anything. And what did they do? They connected first thing, and he said it changed their mindset for the entire rest of the day. I mean, isn't that
That's
awesome?
lovely. It really is. It really is. I'm sure they look forward to having that connection each morning.
Yes, and with technology, that is something that we really need to take advantage of, that, of reaching out and just saying, you know what, I'm having a bummer moment here, can you help me out? And you don't even have to do it through Zoom because maybe you're not looking your best or whatever.
Mhm.
Send out a text,
Yeah.
a phone call, any of that.
Yes, I know. During COVID, another group of friends started that once a week because they were really locked down. Others were. I mean, I say really, we were locked down also, but I'm on an acre. I can go out back and garden all I want and have
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D. And but anyway, we did Zooming, and so it didn't cost any money. We Zoomed. We knew each Wednesday we were going to. There were 5 of us, and each week somebody came up with 3 different questions to ask. So, we started with the simples. I would say simple, but what are you grateful for? What are you looking
Mm-hmm.
forward to? All of that. But we, over the year we did this, we got into some really deep conversations. And there's another tribe, another group of sisters that I have that know me inside and out from something simple that somebody decided she wanted to do, and we participated.
See, that's
So
awesome. And
it,
you
it
don't need to have COVID or anything else to do something like that. You can do that at any time. And if you feel comfortable with 2, 3 other people, oh my gosh, I mean,
yeah,
how wonderful.
yes, yeah, it gives
Wow.
your life purpose
Yes.
because you see that often. I see it more in retirement because I'm talking to more people that are retired. Some people don't feel that purpose at all.
Hmm.
Like, you will even say, "Don't know why I get up this morning," which I can't imagine.
Right. And that's when they need to reach out for somebody like Pathways with Patty to help them out to
Yeah.
rediscover their passion and purpose. And I
Yes.
don't I don't mean to sound flippant about that, but
No.
those are the type of people that I want to be able to reach with this podcast. I mean,
Mhm.
really, there is light at the end of the tunnel as long as you're willing just to make one little phone call or get on one little website and sign up saying, "Yes, I would love to Zoom with you for 30 minutes and talk with you," or
Yeah.
just reach out to anybody. There are resources that are out there.
Yes. Yes. And it's really about loving yourself, that commit to yourself. You are worth it to spend
Mhm.
that time to move forward.
Yep. And I've said this before, and I will continue to say it, as to quote my friend Brenda Susie, self-care and self-love is not selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. We were raised to, as women and little girls, we were raised that, oh, girls, you don't want to be selfish. You don't want to be selfish. That's not a horrible thing. Taking care of yourself so you can be available for other people. And again, that goes back to his plan, to me, God's plan, the universe's
Mhm.
plan. How
Mhm.
beautiful if we take care of each other, if we honestly love ourselves and love each other and have that alive in our life, makes it much sweeter, much easier to set intentions and to
Oh
have
yeah.
that foundation, that whole said the foundation. So when the crap does come along, it's easier to move
Oh
forward.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
easy. Yes. Okay, so my next question to you is, what would you say is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
Mhm. Gosh, Patty, I have been surrounded by awesome people from my parents. I love the poem "Choose Joy" on the refrigerator. I don't know that I have a favorite. I don't know that I have a number one that really sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in retirement, people like you told me to sit back for a year and absorb, and you do, and with that time, reinvent yourself. But I think I have to go back to my mother, that she just loved unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And those words of wisdom have kept me alive and happy
Excellent.
and an active person in our community. I know it sounds simple, but it's heavy and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what would you say is your superpower?
I think that's it, Patty. I think that I genuinely love. I know when I first started in counseling, there were some people that would say, "Oh, Cece is the love counselor." Oh, how horrible is that? You can call me that. I don't care. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. I'm gonna love you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people are harder to love, and some people have made it challenging for me. And you know what? That's not horrible either. That teaches me more about myself.
Mm-hmm. Helped you to
What?
grow.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that is my superpower. And I
I
enjoy
would totally
love.
agree
It
with that.
feels good. I love to receive it. I love to give it.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. Is definitely your superpower. So, in a nutshell, how would you say you are living your best dash?
Right now, I'm living my best dash passionately. It feels good to have the time to get into the things that I am interested in. So the passion, it does bubble and boil, and I have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. And you are definitely, I'm witness to it. So yes, you are living your best dash. You most definitely are.
Passionately, I'll say.
Are there any final thoughts of words or wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Um, Love.
Excellent.
There aren't any final words. I appreciate you asking me to do this, because when you first asked me, I left you and I thought, "What do you want me on there?" What would I have to say? But I do have things to say.
Yes, you do.
And yeah, so thanks for asking me. It validates me, and just a reminder of where my priorities are.
Hmm. And going along with that, Cease, you're an exact example of why I wanted you to have beyond a guest on my podcast, because you have overcome some very big challenges that many people will never experience. They'll experience their own challenges, but it's helpful to hear the challenges that other people have had and how they have overcome them. And that is something that you have definitely done, which is another reason why I love you, because you are an extreme example and remind me that, there is going to be stuff that's going to happen in life, but learn from the experience and move forward to make it the best that you possibly can. So thank you so much for that, my sister. I greatly appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So thank you, Cease, for being my guest today. And as I said, you continue to inspire me. And I know that you have inspired our audience today to rediscover their passion and purpose as well. And for you out there listening, I'd like you to remember to subscribe to this podcast and invite your family and friends to also subscribe to it as well. And don't forget to go to my website, www.pathwayswithpatti.com. Excuse me, it's .org. I wanted it to be the other, but it wasn't available. So it is .org. And remember to sign up for a Zoom. If you want to talk with me for 30 minutes, it's free to do that. And let's talk about your passion and purpose, or maybe lack of one, or looking for one, whatever the case may be. And also, let's get you on the email list so that you can receive my weekly newsletter with Pathways with Patti. And you'll get that roadmap too, of giving you some examples of what you can do to get on the right path to living your best dash. So until we meet again, continue to live your best dash, knowing that life's an adventure and I want you to enjoy the journey. So let's remember, your life matters. It's never too late to create a legacy that you can be proud of. So with that, I say, thank you for joining us, and God bless you all.